Welcome to shul.com. We are talking about the Tana Baba ben BUTA, who he was, his life, and a few of the Gemariyot about him. First, he was a Tana, and he lived in the Tikufa of the Zugot, so before the Tanaim. That's when he had the pairs of the Hachamim. He was a student of Shamai Hazaken, but he actually followed the house of Bet Hillel on many halachot, specifically with the Gemara, which we're going to talk about on Smicha and Korban on Yom Tov. He also was the advisor of the king Hordos, who seemingly was a Rasha. But we'll take a look at Hordos and what he did. There's a Gemara in Baba Batra Daf Gimel Amud Bet. I'm going to read the Gemara. Let's take a look inside. The Gemara starts, Ubaba ben Buta, Hechi asevet le etza le Hordos le mistere le Bet HaMikdash. How did he give advice to Hordos to destroy the Bet HaMikdash? Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda said, Lo listor inish be kenishta ad debane be kenishta acharita. He says a person should not destroy one synagogue until he builds another one. This is actually brought down halakha ma'aseh, that they shouldn't take down a shul. I know of a shul in Brooklyn that did not follow this. They had gotten a donation from someone, verbal donation, and they took down their building, and then after taking down their building and not having a place, the donor reneged on his donation, and it took them like 10 years in order to rebuild and come back. So it's very important, just like the Gemara says, halakha brings, is not to take down an existing structure until a new one is built, or until the money, or until the halakha is there. So the Gemara continues, Iba'it ema. If you want to say rather to Yuha Hazabe, that he saw, let's say, some cracks or damage in the building. Iba'it ema malchuta shani. He says, or if you prefer to say, that a king is a little bit different in this case. Telo hadra be de amar Shemuel I amar malchuta akarna ture. That if a king says that he's going to remove ture, mountains, akar ture velo hadar be, and he will uproot mountains, he's not going to renege on what he said. So you have to take a king's word to seriousness. Let's go to the part that's important for Baba ben Buta. Hurdus avda de bet Hashmonae hava. He was a slave in the house of the Hashmonaim, who were the kings of Israel. Natan enam beota tinoket. He saw a young girl, tinoket. It brings here. Let's take a look on the bottom. It says here that she was a young girl. Doesn't give the age. Yomachad shama bat kala de amar. One day he hears a bat call. This slave, Hordos. Kol avda de marid hashta matzlach. That any slave that's going to revolt at this moment is going to be successful. Kam katil ninhu kulhu marvate. He got up. He killed all of the bet hachashmonaim, all of his masters there. V'shayra dahi yenukta, and he left the girl. He left her alive. Ki hazata hi yenukta deka ba'e lemin tseva. When she understood that she was kept alive, that Hordos wanted to marry her, selika igara, she went to the top of the roof. V'rama kala amra, she raised the her call and said, Kal man de ateva amar, anybody that's going to come, mibet chashmonai ka'atina, and say that he's from the house of the Chashmonaim, avdahu, he's just a slave, don't believe him. Delo ishtayira minahu elahi yenukta, because there's nobody that remains from the house of Chashmonaim except for that girl. Vahu yenukta nafla me'igara dar'a, she jumped off the roof to the ground and committed suicide. Now, Hordos, when he saw this, Timana Sheva Shenin Bidufsha, he took her and he preserved her body for 7 years inside of honey. Ika da amre ba'alea. Some say that he slept with her and he went on her. Ika da amre lo ba'alea. Some say that no, he didn't actually go together on her. Da amre la ba'alea, those that said he went on her, had ditmana lituvte tuve liyitzre. He did it for his Yetzer Hara. He went because he actually had a lustful desire to be with her, but she was no longer alive. That some say that those that said he didn't go on her and sleep with her, Mana ki hechi denomru bat melech nasav. He did it to preserve her, to say that I am from royalty. I married into the royal family, and I'm part of the BUTA Hashmonaim, and I took over. Amar, Hurdus said, Man darish mikerev achecha tasim alecha melech. It says in the Torah that you have to put from your brothers a king. Rabbanan, he said, rabbis, Kam katlinhu the kulu Rabbanan. When he saw that the rabbis were possibly going to get into his way of what he wanted to do, he got up and he killed all of them, or most of them actually. Shavke levava ben BUTA lemishkal etza mineh. And he kept Baba ben BUTA as an advisor, because good kings, no matter if they are Jewish or not Jewish or from the Gentiles, they know having good counsel, especially from the Jewish advisors, was always beneficial to them. Even King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella Yemach Shemam v'zichram wanted to keep Don Yitzhak Abrabanel, even with evicting all the Jewish people from Spain. They offered him and his family the ability to stay. He didn't stay. He says, Betoch ami anochi yoshev. He ended up leaving, and that ended up being the history. But a good king had always good advisors. So he kept Baba ben BUTA, ahadar le kilila de yale. But he put around his eyes a kilila de yale is a porcupine type of crown. In essence, nakadinhu le'ene, in order to blind the rabbi, so that he would never form a rebellion against Hurdus, because Hurdus killed all the rabbis, he killed the BUTA Hashmonaim, but he wanted to keep a Jewish advisor. He just didn't want him to rebel. It's interesting that this similar, almost similar story happened to the Farhi family. I did this on a previous video from the book from Sir Moses Montefiore. On his diary, he talks about the Farhi family and how they worked with the government in the Arab world and what had happened to them. You could check that out on the other shiur. Now, Yomachad Ata v'yativ kameh. One day, Herod Hurdus came and he sat before Baba ben BUTA. Amar hazi mar hai avda bisha maika avid. He said, and he kind of tricked Baba ben BUTA by telling him, look at what this slave who ended up rising to become a king, look what he did. Between killing, the rabbis, killing BUTA Hashmonaim, and blinding Baba ben BUTA. And he did it in a way that Baba ben BUTA didn't identify that this was the king. Amar le mai evid le. So Baba said to him, what do you want me to do to this king? Amar le nitle mar. He said, curse him. Nilteye mor. He said, curse him. Amar le. He tells him back, Gam da'ach melech al tekalel. Said, you're not allowed to curse a king, even if he's a bad king, because kingdom is not granted from mankind. It's God who determines that. Amar le hai lav melechu. But he said he's not really a king. He's a slave that rose to be a king. Amar le yeheve ashir ba'alma. He said, if he was even just a rich man, I wouldn't curse him. You're telling me he's a king? I said, if he was rich, I wouldn't go out of my way to curse him. And he brings a ma'amar, pasuk, that says that even a rich person, you should not curse. And if he were only a leader, Hurdus says, and even a leader, president amongst you, you shouldn't curse him. Amar le be'ose ma'ase ammecha. Hurdus tells him, the one that acts like this, to his nation, v'hai lav ose ma'ase ammecha, and this person doesn't do what the king, what is in the benefit of the people. Amar le mistefina mineh. He tells him, Baba ben BUTA, he goes, even if he's not doing the will of the people and doesn't act in the way the eyes of the people, he goes, I'm afraid of the king. So, Amar le leka inish da'azil delema le. So, he tells them, don't worry, nobody's going to tell the king. It's just me and you, no one's around there. Ta'ana ve'at yativna. It's only me and you sitting here. No one knows what's going on. It's not a big deal to tell me. אמר לכתיב, כי עוף השמיים יוליך את הכל ובעל כנפיים יגיד דבר. And he gives them a pasuk that the birds of the Shamayim, they can carry voices, and things with the wings can, winged creatures can tell over matters. Amar le anahu. So Hordos tells Baba ben Buta, he goes, I'm the king. I hava yadana de zahareda banan kulehai. If I even knew that this is how you Jewish rabbis look up to the kings, even in these situations, lo havekatilna lehu, I would never have killed any of the rabbis. And he realized his mistake. He tells Baba ben Huda, Hashta, mai takante dahu gavra. He goes, what is a man like me supposed to do now after I made this mistake and realized it? Amar le hu kiba orosh el olam. He goes, you took out the light of the world by destroying all the hachamim and killing them. Dechtiv kinen mitzvah beTorah or, and these rabbis were teaching Torah. Yilech ve'asok be'orosh el olam. Go focus on building the light of the world. And how do you do that? Dechtiv ve'naharu elav kol hagoyim. And go back, rebuild the Beit HaMikdash. Some say this is what Baba ben Buta sent to Hordos, who simeh enosh el olam, that he blinded the eyes of the world, of the rabbis, and of Baba ben Buta. Dechtiv haya im me'enei ha'edah yedech mitatzik be'enosh el olam. Go and focus and be mitatzik in the eye of the world. By doing what? Like it says on the Beit HaMikdash, Amale mistefina mi malchuta. And Hordos tells him, I would love to go rebuild it. He goes, but the Romans, they're in charge. They destroyed the second temple. It's not that simple. Amale shidar shilicha. So he tells him, Baba, send an emissary, go start to work diplomatically. And it takes time until he gets to Rome, until he starts to bring it to the Caesar, until the whole process, and let him remain some time there. He spent a year, a year till he gets back also. He goes, and in the meantime, you can take down the existing structure, whatever was left, and start building Avad. And Hordos decided to do it. Shalchule, the Roman government sent back to Hordos, Imlo satarta altistor. If you didn't take down the old building, don't take it down yet. V'im satarta altivne. And if you already demolished it, don't build it. V'im setarta uvanita. But if you already demolished and rebuilt it, abde bisha bata de abdin mit malchin. He goes, this is the way that slaves work. They seek permission only after they do as they wish. Im zaynach alach sifrach kan, and if you're proud of your weapons and everything, lo recha velo bar recha, you're not the recha or the son of a recha. Hurdus avda kelanya mit abed, and they told him you're just a slave and who made himself free, and they were kind of putting him down on that. At the end of the day, Hordos ended up rebuilding the Beit HaMikdash, the second Beit HaMikdash on there. And that's Baba ben Buta. Let's take a look. There's actually a little bit more on this Tana, really interesting. This is found in Beitza Chaf Aleph and also in Yerushalmi Chagiga Perek Bet. It says, V'haya sham Baba ben Buta mitalmidei Bet Shamai. He was from the students of Bet Shamai. And he knew v'yodea shehalacha ke Bet Hillel. Even at the time, halacha was not like Bet Shamai. In that case, Pa'am achat nechnas azara matzah shomemet. What happened? He went one time to the Beit HaMikdash and he saw the whole Beit HaMikdash was all empty. Yashmu betehim shel elu sheishmu et bet Elohenu. They took the house of God and they left it empty. Why? Me'asa shalach ve'vi sheloshet alafim telayim mitzon kedad. He went and he got 3,000 sheep. Ubikaran memumin. Some of them had mum behemidan behar habayit. Omar lehem shimuni achaye bet Yisrael. And he ended up telling that anyone who wanted to bring korbanot should come bring korbanot. And that's what ended up happening, because the people were not coming to be somech. That's because they followed the halacha like Bet Shamai that said you can't be somech on Yom Tov. So they weren't bringing korbanot, the private korbanot. So he went and he put from his own money in order to have the people in order to come do them. do the korbanot. Let's take a look. There's actually a Gemara Nedarim Samech Vav Amud Bet. He says, let's look at this Gemara actually inside. I have it right here. It's let's here open up. It's in actually Nun Vav. Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. That's where I see it here. Take a look at this. In Gitin Nun Zayin Amud Aleph. Patach Idach ve'amar. This is one of the Hachamim are saying. There was a man who wanted to divorce his wife. But his ketubah was a lot of money. Me'asa, what did he do? He went and he invited all of his friends. He fed them, he drank them, they got drunk, and he put them all on the same bed together with his wife. He took the white of an egg and he put it with them on the bed. Then he got witnesses and he took them to Beit Din, and he said that his wife slept with those people. There was one old man in the Beit Din, possibly just sitting there watching, listening to the whole case. Baba ben BUTA shemo, and that was his name, Baba ben BUTA. Amar lahem, he said to them, Kach mikubelani mishamai zaken. He goes, I've heard cases like this from Shamai. He told me how to handle this. He said, Lo ben betzas soled min ha'ud. He goes, the white of an egg, when you put a flame next to it, will crust and contract itself. But the zera, the sperm, when you end up heating it, flows away and it gets absorbed into the fabric. But they tested it and they found that that's exactly how it worked. They brought that guy that did this and they flogged him, they beat him up in the Beit Din. They took all the ketubah money from him and they gave it over. And that's another story of Baba ben BUTA that's found in the Gemara. There is another ma'amar found in Mishnah Kiri Tut Vav Dash Gimel that Rabbi Eliezer Omer mitnadev Adam Asham Talui bechol yom ubechol et shiritzeh. A person could donate an Asham Talui, meaning an Asham Talui is the korban that you bring if he's not sure. It's Talui, yes or no. He could bring it anytime he wants. Hu haya nikra Asham Hasidim, also called the Asham of the Hasidim, because he's not sure if he did it, he's protecting himself. Amru alav Baba ben BUTA. They said on this rabbi, She'am mitnadev Asham Talui bechol yom. Every single day he would bring this korban chutz me'achad Yom HaKippurim Yom Echad, except for one day, the day after Yom Kippur, he wouldn't bring it because he said it's the day after Kippur. At least give one day a year that he didn't do a sin. Amar Hamaon Hazeh, he said, this promise that I made to bring the Beit HaMikdash, ilu hayu menichim li hayiti mevi. I would even bring it the day after Yom Kippur. Ela omrim li hamtin ad shetikanes safek. But they would tell him, listen, we know you come every day. Let's make a safek. At least this one day. Don't do it. There is another ma'amar brought down in Nedarim Samech Vav Amud Bet, which we'll read here. It's as follows. It's Echad mi bnei Bavel la Eretz Yisrael v'nasa isha. So there was a guy who got married. He came from Bavel and he went to Israel. He got married. He would tell his wife, Bishlili shtei adashim. He would tell his wife, make me two lentils tonight. He meant to tell her, make me a light dinner. What happened? Bishlalo shtei adashim mamash. She went and she made him literally 2 lentils and she served it to him in a plate, 2 lentils. He got mad at her. He goes, what are you doing? She said, that's what you told me. You said, make me 2 lentils. He meant a light dinner. The mahurat, the next day, Amar Leah, he said, please, Bishlali se'ah, make me se'ah. Se'ah is a big portion. Bidag dola. I'm reading the translation of the Gemara in Hebrew. So he tried to tell her, look, yesterday I told you make me a light dinner, 2 lentils. You made me literally 2 lentils. So today make me make a bigger dinner. We went through this. That day he comes home for dinner. Bishlalo se'ah mamash. He comes home and he sees a barrel of food ready for him to eat. He said, what is that? He goes, you said se'ah. So I did a se'ah. And she literally did a se'ah food. He got even more mad at her. Amar le, I mean, we could assume from this that he probably was from Bavel, he spoke Arabic. She was from Israel, she spoke Hebrew. I don't know, maybe that was the problem. Amar la, hevi'ani le shne butzini. So he said, bring me 2 butzini. It says here kishuim. Okay, but it's talking about butzini, it means cucumbers. But it also means candlesticks. So she went and got him 2 candlesticks. So because in the word of Aramit, botzina, bisifa Aramit, has another meaning to it of candlesticks. So Amar la haba'al, when he saw that he asked her for food, and instead of food she brought him candlesticks, he got even more upset. He said, take those candlesticks, nechi v'shivri otam al resha de baba. He said, take those candlesticks and go bang it on the head of the baba. The baba is what? In Arabic, bab. Bab is the door. So he told her, go take those candlesticks, go bang them on the door. What do I need? I wanted to eat food. So what'd she do? She went to the Beit Midrash and she saw Baba ben Buta. So she thought her husband said, go bang it on the head of Baba ben Buta, the candlestick. So she goes to the Beit Midrash, she takes the 2 candlesticks and she bangs them on the rabbi's head. She walks in there, doesn't say anything to the rabbi, bangs it on his head, and the rabbi's there. What's going on here? Now, the rabbi was a judge, he was a dayan. He was sitting at the head of the gate of the city, where that's where the judges used to sit. When she did that, the rabbi didn't get upset right away. He says, what are you doing? So she says, Kach sivani ba'adi. That's what my husband said to do. So Baba ben Puta said, if you did the will of your husband and that's what he really wanted, I bless you that you should have 2 boys that come from you, Gedulim v'hashubim ke Baba ben Puta, and that she should have 2 children that come from her that are, like Baba ben Puta. Why? Because she ended up listening to her husband. Really, in every one of these cases, she followed exactly what her husband said, just her husband didn't communicate properly. He said 2 adashim, she made literally 2 adashim. He wanted a se'ah, she made a se'ah. He said 2 botzini, which he wanted botzini, but she understood it as something else. But that's what he didn't communicate it right. He wanted kishuim. She brought him candlesticks. One Aramit, one Aravit, one Ivrit. Everything was mibulbal in the language there. They didn't have Google Translate. And so by messing all this up, but the rabbi understood from the case, because he's a dayan, he probably sees a lot of these cases, and he understood that this was a communication issue, and he ended up blessing her, and the blessing ended up coming true. So this is the story of Baba ben Buta. Baruch Adonai le'olam. Amen. There's another story of Baba ben Buta that we mentioned. It's brought down in the Talmud Yerushalmi Chagiga Bet dash Gimel. So let's take a look at that inside. It's Maaseh b'Hillel HaZaken shevi ulato la'azara b'samach alea. Hillel HaZaken brought his ulah to the azara and he was somech on it before the korban. Chabru alav tamidei Bet Shamai. Came Bet Shamai, hitchil mekaskes biznava, and he was playing with its tail. Amar lahen re'u nekeva hi ushlamim hevet tiha. He goes, look, it's a female, and he brought it for shelamim. Behifligan bidvarim ba'alchu lahen. And they ended up leaving. Lacha yamim gavra yadan shel Bet Shamai ubikshu likbo halacha kedivrehim. They ended up Bet Shamai becoming stronger, and they wanted to make the halacha like them, that on Yom Tov you would not be somech a korban. Vayasham Baba ben Buta mitamedei Bet Shamai. So Baba ben Buta was there. He was a student of Bet Shamai. He knew the halacha was already hammered out in the Beit Midrash, and it's like Bet Hillel, not like them. One time Baba ben Buta came to the Beit Midrash and he noticed it was completely empty. Amar yishamu batem shel elu sheheshimu et Beit Elohenu. He goes, the ones that emptied out the house of God, their house should be emptied. Amar yeshamu batem shel elu sheheshimu et Beit Elohenu. Me'asa, what did he do? Shalach mevi shaloshet alafim tadim bitzon kedar ubikeran mimumin. He brought 3,000 types of sheep from Kedar, and he checked them from the mumin, from making sure that there was no problems with them. He put them on Harabait and he said, Shema'uni ahaye bet Israel, my brothers, anyone who wants to bring an olah, come take from these 3,000, it's on the house. You can take it and be somech. Bring the shilamim and you can be somech. From that moment on, halacha was like Bet Hillel, V'lo amar Adam davar, and nobody said to him anything further. So it looks like Baba ben BUTA was a person who put his money where his mouth is. He wanted things to be done. He went and he did them. He didn't ask questions. It was a big mahloket. Beit Shamai was growing, and even though he was a student of Beit Shamai, he knew like halakha was like Beit Hillel. Baruch Adonai Le'olam, amen, amen.